Welcome to Timeless Messages from the I Ching. My name is Stephen. So if you found this video, there's a reason. Your divine essence, your divine self has guided you here, perhaps based on the title of the video or some other attribute that you were drawn to. Make no mistake, though, that there's a reason for you to watch this video, as there are likely messages that will help you in the present moment, whatever that present moment is, what you're dealing with, what the situation is in your life. If there's a particular concern or focus that's paramount in your mind, this will help you to see things or think about things in a new and unique way, and perhaps to act in new and unique ways as well. Please contemplate the messages, and if you would, listen to the message at least twice or even 3 times to really solidify inside yourself what the main points are. And if you can, write those down so that throughout the course of your day or week or month, you can refer back to these points and contemplate these points, as the messages are subtle, but as you listen and contemplate these messages in relation to what it is that you're focused on in your life currently, you will have insights and new perspectives open up for you, and it'll help guide you forward into a better future. So the I Ching is an ancient book from China, probably developed thousands of years ago. I'm not sure when it actually was developed. More than likely it's discovered, it stays in the population's consciousness for a while, and then it falls out of consciousness, and then over a course of hundreds or thousands of years, it comes back again. Everything circles back, just like fashion. So the I Ching is based on the Chinese philosophy of yin and yang, or feminine and masculine energy. So I have 3 coins here, and each of these coins is a silver dollar from my dear friend Eric, and I always use these when I consult the I Ching, whether for personalized readings for clients or for a general reading such as this. So the coin has a tail side and a head side. So tails equal 3 and heads equal 2. It's arbitrary though, because if you wanted to assign 2 to tails and 3 to heads, it doesn't matter. As long as you use 2 or 3 for one side, 2 on one side and 3 on the other, it'll work out just fine. So the idea is this, that all of us are connected to the divine life force, the divine essence, and therefore the information that's going to flow through will help to reflect that divine essence's guidance for you or for whomever happens to be listening to this video. So I hope that this will impart to you a wonderful new perspective and understanding in your current situation with wherever you happen to find yourself. Also, please be aware that the videos are numbered, but those numbers, although 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you shouldn't watch them in a consecutive order. There's no need to do such a thing. It's if you're drawn to a particular title or some other attribute of the video, perhaps the image of the thumbnail, whatever it is, there's something there for you. But again, the numbers really are irrelevant other than just to inform you to define that this is a different video from the last one. And if you wanted to keep track of the numbers, that would be a way for you to not watch the same video over and over. So, not that you would, you'd probably recognize the messages would be repeating, but just so you know. And then the title of the video has to do with the particular hexagrams. So when I throw the when I hold onto the coins and focus on the question in this particular reading, it's going to be what are the timeless messages that are most beneficial for the viewer? Timeless messages that are most beneficial for the viewer at the time that you find and listen to this video. Okay, so that's another point I want to make, is that it doesn't matter when this video is published. That's completely irrelevant. This does not pertain to the day that it's published. It just pertains to the time in which you find the video and listen to the video. Okay, so you could find this video in 10 years or 3 months and it would still be relevant, because your spirit, your divine essence, has guided you to come to this video and to listen and to learn some interesting new perspectives. So without further ado, I'm going to start the process. So what I do is I focus on that question, what are the most beneficial messages for the viewers? What are the most beneficial messages for the viewers? I shake the coins and then I throw them on the towel, and then I do this 6 times. And depending on how the coins land, I can either get a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9. So, and I can get more into that as we proceed. So this is again, excuse me, the interplay of feminine and masculine energies, or yin and yang, as reflected in the coins and as reflected through the readings and timeless messages from the I Ching. So here goes. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. Okay. Bring this back up here. So we have 3 heads, or excuse me, 3 tails, which is 9. So I'm just going to log this in real quick. That's a yang line that changes. In fact, I'll make the change right now to a broken line, which is a yin line. So this is a masculine line that changes to a feminine line. Okay? There's a space here, a feminine. There's no break here. It's a masculine line. Okay. Most beneficial message for the viewer. Most beneficial message for the viewer. Most beneficial message for the viewer. 3, 6, 8. 2 tails and a head. Okay, so that's a feminine line. It just carries over to this side. If there were no changing lines on this side, we wouldn't be doing a hexagram over on that side. So, again, most beneficial messages for the viewer. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. And that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's a yang line. It's a solid line. Okay. Okay. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Another yang line. Okay. Okay. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. And that is a 6. 3 heads is a 6. And that's a yin line. 2 lines that are separated. That's a yin line that goes to a yang line, or a masculine line. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. Oops. Most beneficial messages for the viewer. 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 Okay. And let's see here. Get it off the... Okay. That's 3 tails, which is a 9, which again is a yang line that changes to a yin line. Yang line, solid line. The circle indicates that it changes, though, to a broken line, which is a yin line, or feminine line. So I will now consult the I Ching to see what these relate to. 1 second, please. So the hexagram is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines and 6 lines. Hex meaning 6. Trigram is 1, 2, 3. So a hexagram of 6 lines is made up of 2 trigrams. The top trigram of these 3 lines and the bottom trigram of these 3 lines. Same thing over here. So we start with the bottom the foundation, we move up to the top. So what I do is I take these 3 lines and I look these up. This is yang, yin, yang. So I look in here. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll try to bring it up. Yang, solid, broken solid, is Li. So Li is the top trigram, okay? I'm just going to make a note of that in the side. Li, okay? The bottom is Yang, Yin, Yang, which is Yang, Yin, Yang. See, these both repeat. Yang, Yin, Yang. So that is Li as well. Okay. Now both of these transition, this bottom trigram and this top trigram transition from this to this. So the top goes to Yin, Yang, Yang, which is Tui. Tui is the west, the youngest daughter. And Yang, Yin, Yin, let's see, Yang, Yin, Yin is Ken, the mountain, northeast, the youngest son. So all of these trigrams from the book are all related to a cosmic family. Mother and father, 3 daughters, and 3 sons. That makes up the 8 possibilities for the 8 trigrams, and they're related to the directions, which also Feng Shui adopted this information and was able to understand how these life themes relate to particular compass directions, which is a fascinating topic. So Li and Li, so we go up here, Li and Li, where's Li? So that's number 30, you line them up, Li and Li, okay, that's number 30. I'm just gonna make a note of that, 30, okay, and then it changes to Tui and Ken, which is, let's see, Tui is over here and Ken is here, so it goes to Tui, Ken, Yang, Yin, Yin, just make sure I'm getting this correct. 31, so it goes from 30 to 31, okay? There's a lot of different ways you can look at this. This could be kind of where you're at right now or where things have been, kind of what you're dealing with, maybe some helpful perspectives on what you're currently considering or have recently gone through. And this is perhaps a way you can think about this transition to this hexagram, is that this is perhaps something for you to begin to move your energy toward, or consider that this description, whatever that happens to be from the I Ching, may be entering your life. So be aware that this type of energy could be entering, or this type of perspective or helpful ideas could be relevant to kind of pulling you out of perhaps this situation. If this situation is unfavorable, you could move toward, incorporating these ideas. A lot of different ways you can perceive it. Also, you can perceive both hexagrams as describing your current situation in total and how you can view it in a new and unique way to help you through the process. So I'll try to break it down as much or as simply as I can. So we're going to start with number 30. One second. Okay. Now, as I read this, please pay attention to the ideas that have been paramount in your mind. What's the concern for you, what you're dealing with in the current time frame. Bear that in mind as I read these ideas, and maybe even close your eyes and focus on my ideas. Focus on the ideas that the I Ching is presenting and I'm speaking, and really let yourself contemplate these ideas. Okay, here we go. So the first hexagram, I'll write this down. Excuse me, I'm on the wrong one here. The first hexagram is the clinging fire. Oops, I'm gonna put it up here. The clinging fire. Li is fire. Okay. And then the second one is influence or wooing. Okay. Influence and wooing. Okay, hopefully that's legible. So, first hexagram, Li over Li, the clinging fire, number 30. This hexagram is another double sign. The trigram Li, trigram 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, means to cling to something, to be conditioned, to depend or rest on something, and also brightness. A dark line clings to two light lines, one above and one below. So this is a dark line, as this is a dark line, and these are light lines on either side. And the image of an empty space between two strong lines, whereby the two strong lines are made bright. The trigram represents the middle daughter. The creative has incorporated the central line of the receptive, and thus Li develops. As an image, it is fire. Fire has no definite form, but clings to the burning object, and thus is bright. As water pours down from heaven, so fire flames up from the earth. While Kan, K''AN, which is a different trigram, while Kan means the soul shut within the body, Li, or this trigram, stands for nature in its radiance. The judgment, the clinging, perseverance furthers, it brings success. Care of the cow brings good fortune. How odd, right? Different culture, different time. We'll hopefully get into some clarification here. What is dark clings to what is light, and so enhances the brightness of the latter. A luminous thing giving out light must have within itself something that perseveres. Otherwise, it will in time burn itself out. Everything that gives light is dependent on something to which it clings, in order that it may continue to shine. Thus, sun and moon cling to heaven, and grain, grass, and trees cling to the earth. So too, the twofold clarity of the dedicated man or woman clings to what is right, and thereby can shape the world. Human life on earth is conditioned and unfree, and when humanity recognizes this limitation and makes themselves dependent upon the harmonious and beneficent forces of the cosmos, they achieve success. The cow is the symbol of extreme docility. By cultivating within oneself an attitude of compliance and voluntary dependence, a person acquires clarity without sharpness and finds their place in the world. The image, that which is bright rises twice. We have Li twice. The image of fire. Thus, the great man, by perpetuating this brightness, illumines the four quarters of the world. Now, the pronouns are always masculine, so I'll try to shift those whenever I can, but just be aware that that may come through occasionally. So let's repeat this. The great person, by perpetuating this brightness, or the great woman and man, by perpetuating this brightness, illumines the four quarters of the world. Each of the two trigrams, these two trigrams, together represent the repeated, each of the two trigrams represents the sun in the course of a day. The two together represent the repeated movement of the sun, the function of light with respect to time. The great man or great woman continues the work of nature in the human world. Through the clarity of their nature, they cause the light to spread farther and farther, and to penetrate the nature of humanity even more deeply. Okay? So just to recap on some of this, it talks about fire, and fire has to cling to something that will help it to continue to burn. If it doesn't have something to help it burn, to persevere, it'll burn out. So perseverance is very important, and it's important to have something by which your light can continue to shine. Okay? The lines, 9 at the beginning, and this is a 9. This is a yang line with a circle on a solid line. So we're going to read the 9 at the beginning, this is the beginning. 9 at the beginning means the footprints run crisscross. If one is seriously intent, no blame. It is early morning and work begins. The mind has been closed to the outside world in sleep. Now its connections with the world begin again. The traces of one's impressions run crisscross. Activity and haste prevail. It is important then to persevere, to preserve inner composure, and not to allow oneself to be swept along by the bustle of life. If one is serious and composed, he or she can acquire the clarity of mind needed for coming to terms with the many impressions that pour in. It is precisely at the beginning that serious concentration is important, because the beginning holds the seed of all that is to follow. So hope that resonates with you on some level. Now the second line that changes is this number 6, which is a feminine line. 6 in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th position. This is the 6 in the 5th position. So 6 in the 5th place means tears and floods, sighing and lamenting, good fortune. Here the zenith of life has been reached. Were there no warning, one would at this point consume oneself like a flame. Instead, understanding the vanity of all things, one may put aside both hope and fear, and sigh and lament. If one is intent on retaining his or her clarity of mind, good fortune will come from this grief. For here we are dealing not with a passing mood, as in the 9 in the 3rd place, but with a real change of heart. Okay? If one is intent on retaining his or her clarity of mind, good fortune will come from this grief. It's an interesting statement, isn't it? So the final changing line is the 9 at the top, or the 9 in the 6th position. 9 at the top means the king uses him to march forth and chastise. Then it is best to kill the leaders and take captive the followers, no blame. It is not the purpose of chastisement to impose punishment blindly, but to create discipline. Evil must be cured at its roots. To eradicate evil in political life, it is best to kill the ringleaders and spare the followers. In educating oneself, it is best to root out bad habits and tolerate those that are harmless. For asceticism, that is too strict. Like sentences of undue severity, fails in its purpose. I'll read this again. For asceticism that is too strict, and asceticism is you being really, really stern and disciplined and overly disciplined, like you don't have any fun, let down, or anything like that. For asceticism that is too strict, like sentences of undue severity, like a judge would provide a sentence in a court of law, like sentences of undue severity fails in its purpose. So you don't want to be too severe in your approach to life and discipline, or else you're going to have some problems with that. Okay? So the next hexagram, number 31, influence and wooing. Okay? So we have the joyous lake, or Tui, above, and keeping still the mountain below, Tui and Ken. Okay? The name of the hexagram means universal, general, and in a figurative sense, to influence, to stimulate. The upper trigram is Tui, the joyous. The lower is Ken, keeping still. By its persistent, quiet influence, the lower rigid trigram stimulates the upper, weak trigram, which responds to this stimulation cheerfully and joyously. Ken, the lower trigram, is the youngest son. The upper, Tui, is the youngest daughter. Thus, the universal mutual attraction between the sexes is represented. In courtship, the masculine principle must seize the initiative and place itself below the feminine principle, as is shown here. The feminine principle, the masculine principle. The masculine principle has subordinated itself or placed itself below the feminine principle. Just as the first part of the book, 1, begins with the hexagrams of heaven and earth, the first 30, the foundation of all that exists, the second part, and this is the second part starting with number 31, begins with the hexagrams of courtship and marriage, the foundations of all social relationships. The judgment, influence, success, perseverance furthers. To take a maiden to wife brings good fortune. The weak element is above, the strong below. Hence their powers attract each other so that they unite. This brings about success, for all success depends on the effect of mutual attraction. By keeping still within while experiencing joy without, one can prevent the joy from going to excess and hold it within proper bounds. This is the meaning of the added admonition, perseverance furthers. For it is perseverance that makes the difference between seduction and courtship. In the latter, the strong man takes a position inferior to that of the weak girl and shows consideration for her. This attraction between affinities is a general law of nature. Heaven and earth attract each other, and thus all creatures come into being. Through such attraction, the sage influences men's hearts and women's hearts, and thus the world attains peace. From the attractions they exert, we can learn the nature of all beings in heaven and on earth. And finally, the image, a lake on the mountain, the image of influence. Lake, Tui, on top of a mountain. A lake on a mountain with a lake on its summit, the image of influence. A lake on a mountain, the image of influence. Thus the superior man encourages people to approach him by his readiness to receive them. A mountain with a lake on its summit is stimulated by the moisture from the lake. It has this advantage because its summit does not jut out as a peak, but is sunken. The image counsels that the mind should be kept humble and free, so that it may remain receptive to good advice. People soon give up counseling a man or a woman who thinks that they know everything better than anyone else. Those are the messages from this particular reading, reading number 2, Timeless Messages from the I Ching. I would encourage you to read or listen to this message at least 1 or 2 more times, and to take some notes on what the important points are that you find, and then read those throughout the course of your day. Remind those to yourself. Put those on your phone or in a tablet, a journal, and remind those to yourself and see how they begin to resonate and relate to your current life experience. I hope that this has helped you, and I look forward to doing another reading for you very soon.